G'day everyone. Just wanted to recap on one of my favourite rifles. I did do a couple of videos on this early on and I decided to take them off. I just wasn't happy with how they came out and some of the information was a bit skew-if, so I thought I'd finally get around to it when I've got a day off that I'll just bring it up again and talk a little bit about the cartridge as well that it's chambered in, which is a little bit different. So basically this is a 1941 Lithgow No1 Mk111 smle action. And sometime in the 1950s or the 1960s, a place called Smith's Sports Store had some of these rebarreled and to other calibers. Most of them were 303 Wildcats, which was a pretty popular thing to do here in Australia at the time. There's a couple of reasons for it. I won't go too much into it, but basically they necked down the standard 303 British. Here I've got the Mark 6, which is basically a World War One vintage. I've got the Mark 7, the later version, and then next to it there is the 303 270, which this rifle's chambered in, and next to that is the 270 Winchester. Not sure how well you can see that, but that's about the best I can do with the phone I've got. Yeah, so it's one of my favourite of the Wildcats. It's such a simple one to do. It's just basically a straight neck down from 303 British to 270 caliber. I think the reason why they did choose these were pretty popular at the time. The 270 Winchester was fairly popular. Another popular cartridge off the 303 was a 25 caliber. I presume because of the 250 Savage and 257 Roberts that were fairly popular at the time, that it was just a given to neck it down to 25 caliber as well. And they also necked it down to some other ones like 6mm and 22 at some stage, all in roughly around the same time period. And I also think it was necked up to 35 as well, which would be a nice little cartridge, I think. But anyway, yeah, so that's my basically rifle. Obviously they sporterize it. I presume they use the original military 4 stock. I can see where there's a couple of bands would have been, or sight protectors or something, and off the original stock, and then they've just basically used a similar timber for the rear stock to try and match it as best they could, and it worked out quite well. I did get a new scope base not too long ago, second hand. Obviously it's hard to find brand new ones to suit these actions, but the old one I had was fairly worn and I was getting a lot of scope movement. So I managed to find myself a much better condition one that seems to be working well at the moment. So as you all know, yeah, these SMLEs are great rifles. Rear locking action, they're really slick to use. Not the strongest action, but you just load your cartridges according to suit. This 303 270, it was a factory cartridge here in Australia. I'm not sure if it was anywhere else, but here in Australia, that some of our local ammunition manufacturers at the time definitely produced it. Super Cartridge Company in Melbourne was one of the main ones. There were a few others, but that's the main one that I've ever found. Yeah, and basically, yeah, it is a handloader's cartridge now, which is not a problem. I've just basically been using some cut down 270 Winchester dies, using PPU brass, just neck it straight down to 270 and go from there, and it's working well so far. Very accurate rifle. The only designation on the barrel is it's got Smithies and 270 written on it. So where the actual barrel came from, whether it's a Sportco barrel or another Australian, obviously Australian made barrel, but I'm not 100% sure, but it does shoot well. I don't know how well you can see, but I've took it out the other day just to sight it in, hadn't with the new scope, and as you can see, I've got one fly down the bottom and then a really nice 3-shot group up the top there. Very happy with that, and that's shooting the 130 grain Spear Hot Core, which is just a standard cup and core bullet, and it just shoots really well out of this rifle. So I'll probably stick with that bullet. I think the 130 grain's about a good size projectile for this cartridge anyway. It's not the most powerful in the world. It's probably shooting them out at about 2700 out of this rifle with my hand loads. But yeah, very accurate. I'm very happy with it. Yeah, very nice piece of Australian history anyway, sporting firearms history. But yeah, I just thought I'd quickly recap on it. I hadn't done a video on this for a while, or any other videos for a while, so I'm pretty much going to leave it at that. Everything else, pretty much most people would know about them, but they are a really cool part of Australian firearms history. These sporters, you either love them or hate them. You know, most people hate them. I like them. I've had a few now, so. But this is by far my most accurate. And yeah, being in 270 caliber, I don't have to worry about finding projectiles. They're just everywhere. You know, 270 is a very popular caliber. Especially with some of these newer cartridges coming out, like the 6.8 Wests and all that sort of stuff, 6.8 SPC, all them sort of cartridges. So 270 is definitely a good size caliber to have. So yeah, there we are. Just got a spare mag there just for looks, you know. It is cool having a 10-shot mag. You know, not too many rifles in this sort of caliber would have a 10-shot mag. So it does come in handy. And yeah, she's just topped up with a 1.5 to 6 power loop-hold scope. I find that's all I need for this cartridge and the distances I shoot it at. So yeah, it's a really good package. Anyone else that's got one would probably know what I'm talking about. They are pretty cool. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. So happy shooting, and I'll see you next video. Cheers.